Well, thank you for joining me on this question. We're going to be looking at remainder theorems and factor theorems. Now, just a little bit about a remainder theorem. If we substitute some value into a polynomial, such as substitute 2 into the polynomial, and we get 7, it means that if we divide the polynomial of x by, in this case 2 is x minus that 2 value, we will get some other polynomial with a remainder of 7. So this becomes our remainder, and that works in vice versa. If we substitute, say, 0 into a formula, and we get, or we get, say, 3, then our remainder is 3 if we divide by x minus 0, which is that number there. If we divide by x, we will get some, I'll use a different polynomial as we had before. We get some polynomial and we get some sort of remainder of 3. Now, if the remainder is 0, it means that this will be a factor. So if we got a 0 here, then x minus 2 is a factor. If there is a remainder, it's not a factor. If there's no remainder, it is a factor. All right, so let's have a look at what we've got. We've got x cubed. We've got x cubed minus x squared plus ax plus b. And that is divided by x, which means x minus 0. It's divided by x. It has a remainder of 9, which means there is some polynomial, and it has this extra 9 attached. So x is not a factor. Also, that means if we substitute 0 into our polynomial, this is the vice versa. If we substitute 0 into our polynomial, we should get 9. That's what our remainder theorem is. So let's substitute. It's a little p, not a capital P. So let's substitute 0 into our polynomial. We get 0 cubed plus minus 0 squared plus a times 0 plus b. We will get 9. Well, this is saying that all of this is equal to 9. So b equals 9. All right, we found b, and b equals 9. This is important. We've just answered part, find the value of b. Now to find the value of a, well, let's do a second test, and we're told that if we divide it by x plus 1, we get a remainder of 16. So if we divide it by x cubed minus x squared plus ax plus b, if we divide by x minus 1, is it x minus 1? X plus 1, we get a remainder of, so there will be some polynomial, but we get a remainder of 16, which means if we substitute, this is x minus negative 1, if we substitute negative 1 in there, since x minus negative 1 is x plus 1, so we're looking at x minus that value. If we substitute negative 1, we will get negative 1 cubed, negative 1 squared, a times negative 1, plus b, which is 9, we already know that, will equal 16. That will equal our remainder. So let's do this. Negative 1 minus positive 1 minus a plus 9 equals 16. Well, what's this equal? Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. Bring the 16 across to be minus 16. and take the minus a across to be a. Therefore, a equals negative 9. And there is the a value. So our polynomial is, the polynomial of x is x cubed minus x squared plus, no, because a is negative 9, x squared, minus 9x, and b is plus 9. There's our polynomial. And we were asked to factorize into linear factors. Well, we already know that the polynomial of 0 equals 9. Therefore, x minus 0, x minus 9, no, we need a 0 value. Let's reverse that. Nope. Using our factor theorem, we've got to come up with a number that we could substitute and get a 0 value. So, let's try 1. Polynomial 1. 1 cubed minus 1 squared minus 9 plus 9. That makes, oh, how classic, that's great. So since we got a 0, we already know, therefore, x minus 1 is a factor, and that is using the factor theorem. Now, if it's a factor, it means we can divide x cubed minus x squared minus 9x plus 9. And here's the process. Here we go. So x times what is equal to x cubed, and x times x squared. So we put an x squared, we put an x squared, and let's multiply by x squared. That's a cycle. Here we go. X squared, that's x cubed minus x squared. And then we subtract. So x cubed minus x cubed is 0. And negative x squared minus negative x squared is also 0. I like to change the signs when we subtract. I like doing that. Oh, that's too big. I like simply, when we get a minus, I like simply changing that to a minus and changing that to a plus and then adding. So when you add, you get 0. When you add, you get 0. And then you bring this next down to be, you bring that down. The next cycle says x, 9x squared. So x times something will be negative 9x squared. Negative 9x. You take the first part of this from x, you take the first part of this to be negative 9x, and we work out what do we multiply x times to get negative 9x, and that is negative 9. So if you multiply by negative 9, and then we put that negative 9 over here, that's negative 9x plus 9. And if you subtract, as I said, I like changing the signs and add. That gives me 0, that gives me 0. Our remainder is 0, so we've got our factor x cubed minus x squared minus 9x plus 9 equals x minus 1 times x squared minus 9, which is 3 squared. So we finish by just using difference of 2 squared. So x squared minus 3 squared is x minus 3, x plus 3. And there it is, a factor of linear, a product of linear factors. I hope this has helped. Until next time, stay happy.